chairs along with Michelle Colquitt. And thank you to Steve for hitting record because I forgot about that. So again, welcome to NASIG Autumn Day 2. Wei just put in the NASIG Autumn Code of Conduct, which you can see here on the slides. Please read through those. Again, the link is in the chat if you want to read those further. In the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and move on. Today, the NASIG committee members handling today's broadcast is myself as moderator, Steve Kelly as our tech support, and Wei Zhang as our chat moderator. So let us know in the chat if you need anything or have any issues with Zoom. We do ask that if you have questions for our speakers, please put that into the Q&A panel so that we can get to those. Just a quick schedule overview for today. All of this can be viewed on Sched if you haven't had a chance to see the specific layout and sessions that are happening today. But we have several long sessions, our pre-recorded Q&A, and then 2 medium sessions here. So don't forget again that pre-recorded sessions are also on Sched. You would just click into the purple icon or colored ones, and they already have their video streams up and you can view those at any time. Okay, all right, so first up we have Jude Romines. I got that right, thank you for telling me before. Jude Romines and Neil White joining us for their presentation, Fullmetal Automation, Increasing LGBTQ Plus Discoverability at Emory Libraries. So I'm gonna stop sharing and then y'all can take it away.
Right. Hello, everyone. All right. Thank you for joining us for our presentation, Fullmetal Automation. My name is Neil White and Jude Romines is my co-presenter. And today we will be discussing increasing LGBTQ plus discoverability at Emory Libraries. So here we have Edward Elric finding that sweet middle ground that we're craving. This meme highlights the need for the human touch when working with automation. It reads, the potential of automation to deliver results in mass scale. And on the other side, the indisputable need for human touch when working with sensitive content. So first, I have a rundown of our discussion today. We are going to be talking about automation and how it has been implemented at Emory, some benefits and drawbacks of automation, some training and research, and then some manual enhancement projects that have been worked on at Emory. So now I will pass it over to Jude to talk about Homosaurus and the automation process.
Yeah, so just a couple definitions and some background to ground us. But today we're going to be talking about Homosaurus, which is an LGBTQ plus specific controlled vocabulary. It is trying to be comprehensive subject list that describes LGBTQ plus experiences and identities, and it can be used as a supplement for other controlled vocabularies, notably the Library of Congress subject headings, where gaps may exist in describing LGBTQ plus experiences. So Homosaurus has been a project that we've been working on at Emory to increase the discoverability of our LGBTQ plus resources in our catalog. And so I'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we had a request if you could enter the presenter view so that folks could see the slides better.
Okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Is that better? This is the presenter view.
It looks like there's 2 arrows at the bottom. I wonder at the right bottom. I wonder if you click them, if it'll do full screen. Let's see.
Okay.
Okay.
So
moving to automation.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Apologies, I'm just trying to see my notes well also. Go ahead.
Okay, so talking a little bit about what automation looks like at Emory. So in 2021, we started implementing an automated process for adding Homosaurus terms to our catalog. And we did this by collaborating with a vendor that we had already worked with called Backstage Library Works. They created a crosswalk that actually uses the hierarchies that are already in Homosaurus's vocabulary listings, and they crosswalked Library of Congress subject headings to relevant Homosaurus terms. And that's been the basis for how we're automating those terms being added into our catalog. And the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about how the crosswalk works. Okay, so like I said, Backstage is the one that provided us with a crosswalk. Essentially, when we locate bibliographic records in OCLC, if there is a Library of Congress subject heading that maps onto a Homosaurus term in the crosswalk, once that record is exported into our local system, ALMA, those terms are then added to the record. Notably, these terms are only added locally. So this is happening in our catalog, unless there is the manual touch of a cataloger going in and adding the term manually. This also works for any Homosaurus terms that might already be present in the OCLC record. And so this captures some one-to-one things. For example, Library of Congress subject heading, something like gay people, will get gay people in Homosaurus. But one thing that our crosswalk does that's been beneficial is that it also adds broader terms following the hierarchies that are in Homosaurus's vocabulary. So you can see on the right here, for example, if we had a record that had the subject heading transgender athletes subdivided by fiction, when that gets exported over into our catalog, it gets the Homosaurus terms transgender athletes. It also gets the broader heading LGBTQ plus athletes, gets LGBTQ plus fiction and transgender fiction. So these broader headings kind of cascade out and create additional access points for increased discoverability of the resources. In the section below that, on the broader term side, it just shows what these hierarchies already look like in Homosaurus. So you can see one of the terms is butch-femme relationships, and the broader headings are lesbian culture and LGBTQ plus relationships. So again, if that Homosaurus term was already in an OCLC record and it got exported to our catalog, we would get all of those terms added to the record. So we could go to the next. So just talking a little bit about the timeline of how we came to implement Homosaurus automation at Emory. It started in fall 2021. We can click into that slide. So this period just marked testing Backstage's crosswalk alongside what that would look like in our catalog. So it was a testing period where we started to have conversations about what the benefits and drawbacks were of doing this project. We can go to the next slide. And then we started working in training catalogers. We had people come in, such as Adrian Williams, hosting different webinars to get catalogers to understand what Homosaurus was, how to use Homosaurus and what that was going to look like in our catalog. And we started the process of implementing automation. We can go to the next slide. So the next period just marked some feedback, refinement, and then creating some documentation for how we were going to use Homosaurus in the library. And that kind of spirals into next section. So this process has been continuous and marked by refinement and revision and feedback. And one of the opportunities that has come out of it is that we've been able to host some graduate intern projects in the summers. And so this is giving an opportunity for graduate students with certain subject expertise in different areas of LGBTQ plus knowledge to come in and give their commentary on how our crosswalk is working, any problems that they see, as well as to do some targeted projects where they add Homosaurus terms to records based on their interests. And we can keep going. And yeah, I should have mentioned in the last slide, but Neil and I were both interns. So I'm a cataloger at Emory now, but I was the 2024 summer intern for Homosaurus, and Neil was the 2025 intern. So we're talking from experience. But moving forward, we hope to continue to provide internships, or at the very least opportunities for staff at Emory or students at Emory to continue doing these types of projects, and to also continue refining our crosswalk, trying to eliminate inaccuracies and make it better. So keep going. So one of the things we wanted to touch on is that automation is not foolproof. And one of the things that happens when relying on hierarchies, for example, Homosaurus is an LGBTQ plus specific controlled vocabulary. And so terms in Homosaurus necessarily have an LGBTQ plus slant. And so when we were applying broader headings following those hierarchies, some errors occurred when applying that to a generalist catalog. We have a little meme in the corner if you're familiar with the "is this a pigeon" meme. So the person is saying, "Is this top surgery?" And the little butterfly says, "all resources with the subject heading mastectomy." So that was something that happened when we implemented Homosaurus in mass in our catalog. Every resource with the subject heading mastectomy got the broader heading top surgery, which is a relevant term when it comes to gender affirming surgeries in the LGBTQ plus community, but wasn't wholly accurate a lot of the time. And so that just exposes the need for some refinement in how we do this. And also, again, some human touch, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But something that we wanted to address is that because of this, there are some notable exclusions to our automated process that we decided on. And those sweeping categories are broad terms that may not meaningfully impact records. So Homosaurus has a lot of generalist terms like men, family members, marriage. Sometimes these are just one-to-one LCSH, so they don't really add to the record. So we've eliminated them from automation. Some others are medical terms that don't always relate to LGBTQ plus topics outside of that context. We decided that the risk for error was too large, and that those types of terms really do need a cataloger's touch. And so we no longer automate those. Some examples are mastectomy, testosterone, PCOS. These would sometimes get broader headings like hormone therapy or intersex variations. And again, this is not always the case outside of LGBTQ plus contexts, and it just needed that human touch to better understand the nuance. Some others are general terms for secondary sex characteristics and body parts. Again, these just didn't really meaningfully add anything to the records. And then the other is contextually specific terms without parenthetical qualifiers. And what I mean by that is that there are some slang terms in LGBTQ plus communities. One I can think of is bears. And in Homosaurus, it gets the parenthetical qualifier gay culture. But there, and so there are terms like that, but not all of them in Homosaurus have the qualifiers yet. And so it's creating some confusion between what blindfolds might mean in a kink context versus what it might mean outside of that. So again, those were some of the ones that the risk for error was too high, and so we eliminated them from automation. Okay, moving on. And hand it off to Neil.
Yep. So next we have some pros and cons of automation in practice. So some benefits: it's fast, it is somewhat comprehensive, and it's possible to add new terms to many records, millions and millions. And then there may be updates to records that might not get cataloger attention initially, like vendor or shelf-ready products. And then some drawbacks are also important to talk about. There are many terms that do not have matches between the Homosaurus and LCSH. And those that do are sometimes duplications, so they're not meaningfully adding anything by being automated. And then this automation is also reliant on the existing quality of the subject analysis that's already been done in order to produce those quality additions. And so kind of what Jude was talking about in the exclusion slide, incorrect or misleading terms can be assigned because of those issues. And then just a small note is that a lot of these are going to be terms that are only added internally and not to OCLC records. So the reach of the work is limited by that. Then we have a possibilities slide. So most importantly, this is a research opportunity. Automating specialized subject headings at this scale, millions and millions of records, invites analysis and reflection about automation in general, but specifically how and if it can work for inclusive cataloging. So it's meant to start conversations and also possibly set a model for implementing other inclusive vocabularies outside of LGBTQ plus subject areas. So next, we are going to talk about some initiatives and research that's been done at Emory. So one post-project goal set following the initial automation project was to, quote, support graduate internships to perform focused, retrospective subject analysis projects. And that is just what they did. From 2023 to 2025, during the summer, there were some internships, and we are going to discuss them here. Jude is going to start with 2023.
Okay. So in 2023, we had our first kind of targeted Homosaurus internship. And just to reiterate, this is in addition to automation. So this is like a manual project. Someone went into records and added terms. And that was an LGBTQ plus film enhancement project focused on identifying films that were in our collection with LGBTQ plus characters and themes. And adding the genre term LGBTQ plus films to them, as well as where possible, more granular terms. So Homosaurus has those granular terms such as lesbian films or two-spirit films. And this was in an effort to increase the discoverability of our media collection. What was also interesting about this was that the intern went ahead and noticed gaps in our collection and suggested titles that we could purchase. So it was also a collection development opportunity. And you can see a little bit on the left-hand side there, one of the records that was enhanced through this project. It got some targeted Homosaurus terms like closeted gay men, closeted lesbians, different terms that the intern thought described the resource that wouldn't have been added through automation. And then we'll move on to our next internship. Okay, so 2024, that was me. So I was a summer intern for 2024, focusing on Homosaurus. And a lot of my work actually focused on the crosswalk and revisions to the crosswalk and refining that automated process. But I did also do some manual projects. The one that I focused on was pulling all physical books with the Library of Congress subject headings, gender nonconforming people and gender nonconformity in their bibliographic records. And the reason I did that is because Library of Congress subject headings have notable gaps when it comes to describing gender diverse experiences. And one thing that has happened that I noticed is that a lot of these experiences, for lack of better descriptive terms, get dumped into the category of gender nonconforming. This is a problem because it both limits the specificity of people being able to do research to find experiences. But also one thing that I noticed was a lot of culturally specific and indigenous identities were also getting dumped into this category. And that's a problem of itself because the idea of non-conforming varies across culture. And there's definitely a sort of Western center to that term when you dump other identities into it. And so I wanted to do some research on these books to see if I could pull out more descriptive Homosaurus terms, because Homosaurus is very expansive when it comes to gender diverse identities. And so basically I put everything in a spreadsheet. I did research. I focused a lot on self-identification, how the author described themselves or how they described their characters. And I added those Homosaurus terms both in OCLC and in our catalog. And on the left, you can see there was a memoir called Puberty. Some of the terms that I added that wouldn't have otherwise been added because they weren't in the record and nothing mapped from LCSH were things like non-binary people, transitioning, and then we got some broader terms like gender minorities and LGBTQ plus people. So yeah. Then I'll hand it off to Neil to discuss their project.
Yes. So I was the intern for the resource description team in 2025. And while I worked on a number of different projects, I'm just highlighting 4 of them right here. I dealt with the Subject headings: polyamorous people, biracial LGBTQ plus people, older LGBTQ plus people, and rural LGBTQ plus people. And for the biracial enhancement project, my goal was to identify the different identities that were present in the book. So I utilized the Queer Books database, and that's a community resource for additional help in identifying queer titles that also had biracial representation. And this was helpful for creating a list of possible acquisitions for Emory, as well as to gain details on the types of representation in each title. So here on the left, we have an example of the Arsonist City, which originally only had the subject heading for family members of LGBTQ plus people. And so the rest of them were added based on research into reviews, author notes, and then also like just description of the materials online. And the remaining enhancement projects were done on works that were actually within Emory's catalog already, and done by searching for those specific subject headings. And then I would analyze those works' aboutness for further Homosaurus editions. Now we're going to talk about some research.
Yeah. So one of the tensions with this whole project is the idea of automation and sensitive, culturally specific experiences, and where's the line that we draw with that? And one thing that I think is good about that project is it starts this conversation, because this type of work, automating Homosaurus terms into millions of records, is not really something that we've seen done before that has been documented or has research done into it. And because a lot of these terms are being added locally into our catalog, the risk of inaccuracy and things like that, the harm of that, are really limited. And it gives us the opportunity to analyze what's going on, to see what kinds of things should be excluded, like the medical terms that we talked about, or where it's really working. For us, one of the biggest benefits is the genre headings. It has really helped bring that out in our catalog. And so we've published some research on it to kind of continue this conversation and see where other people can pick off leave or make this work better. So we can go into the next slide. So the first article was one that we published recently. I did that with someone who used to work at Emory as a cataloger. And it's basically just an overview of how Homosaurus is working and sort of the immediacy of why we think we should, in this current time, focus on increasing LGBTQ plus discoverability in catalogs, as well as some of the shortcomings of LCSH, relying on only LCSH for doing that. And so there's that one. And then the other, which is very interesting, is kind of a bigger overview and case study of how this even came to be at Emory, the background, what testing looked like, what the benefits and drawbacks were. So both of these are interesting if you want to dive deeper into the work that we've been doing, and they're on our slides, which we've provided, but also if you want to email us, we'll share it. But yeah, so we're hoping to continue this research.
Okay. So moving on, we're going to talk about the human touch. And the need for a human touch is important for many reasons. So what can a human do for you? Humans have subject expertise that comes from lived experiences, and understanding the queer culture around polyamory, for example, is vital to understanding which additional headings are going to be most helpful to users that are searching for this term. So specifying representation also requires that human touch to understand the nuance involved. My biracial representation project is a great example here, as it required in-depth research of the materials to specify the identities present in each work. And then a human is also able to meaningfully add broader headings that would not necessarily be automated. So as Jude mentioned earlier, the heading family members was an excluded term for automation purposes. But here I used the heading examples of family members of LGBTQ plus people, which was added only where analysis of the material's aboutness deemed it meaningful. So specifically that example I had on the other slide of the arsonist city, it had plot relevant reasons for applying the term family members of LGBTQ plus people instead of just kind of being wantonly put on there, as opposed to automation doing it. We were having our hand in it. Next, Jude is going to talk about some cleanup.
Yeah, and I'll make this a little bit fast, but basically we automating a lot of records, there's some messes that happened. It was a little messy. And so we've retrospectively gone back and fixed some things that happened in the earlier iterations of our automation. We maintain a spreadsheet where staff can report if Homosaurus is behaving in inaccurate ways in our catalog so that we can catch those and make sure those inaccuracies don't persist in our catalog. So we've kind of divvied it up into, there are some projects that need a human touch. So one of these is intersex variations. It was one of the medical exclusions that we decided humans need to touch this. So those records that got misapplied to, I went in and took it out and I did research to know if it was accurate or not. But then there were things like family members that were one of the broader terms that didn't meaningfully add anything to the record. It affected 22,000 records. So we just ran a set in Alma and yanked it out. So that's kind of our approach in identifying, is this something that we can just wholesale remove, or is this something that a human has to go back in and do? And we're well on our way to cleaning stuff up. So that's been part of our process too.
Right. So moving forward, because Homosaurus is distinct from LCSH and has this community-centered approach to adding terminology, it allows work to continue to be done despite contemporary obstacles with LCSH and SACO funnels. And then finally, we have our meme works cited page for you all. Very important. And if you have any questions, we have emails here. Contact us for copies of the slide. I have a version up that has less of the intermediate parts of Prezi, so you can get just the meat of the content when you download it. Thank you very much.
Thank y'all both. I love this presentation and I'm like super looking forward to sharing some of this info with our metadata supervisor. We do have a few questions. We only have a couple minutes, but if you don't mind, I can share those real quick. And if we don't get to all of them, then I can send them along too. The first one is, did you find any freely available crosswalks between Homosaurus and LCSH, or was that part of the service that Backstage provided?
Yeah, I'll just jump in. So that was part of the service that Backstage provided, but I will say that these hierarchies are all on Homosaurus. So if they're available. So yeah.
All right, thanks. Do you know if there has been any attempt to change the sexual minorities and sexual minority culture LC subject headings?
I might jump in again, Neil, just because I'm on the gender and sexuality
Please.
SACO funnel. Yeah, there's been a lot of effort to change subject headings to add new ones. Actually, if you want to look into the SACO funnel or if you want to participate, that's just I'll put it in the chat. But yeah, it's been conversations.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. And then the last question we have is, do you anticipate a future project to, oh, actually, maybe this is similar. Do you anticipate a future project to try to upgrade OCLC records?
just because I'm at Emory, I'll jump in.
No, please,
Yeah,
Jude.
we're hoping to do more of the manual enhancement. There's ones that I'm personally thinking of. Actually, the genre term transphobic works, I would like to add that to some records. So things like that, we're looking for opportunities to do it. It's just the kind of having the person power to do it, and that's why the internships have been helpful.
Absolutely. All right, well, we're at time. I want to thank you both so much for your excellent presentation. And then everybody, if you have questions, information's on SCED to reach out to our speakers. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone. So we'll head into a break.